So, 2023. Last year, more than anything, I desired passion, to feel something, anything, to not just motivate me, but to remind me that there is so much to life worth living and experiencing to keep going. Not just for me, but for the people in my life. My favorite things from 2023 are not merely here because I liked them or that they filled a void, but it came to me at a time where I really needed to feel something, reminding me that if you love something so much and you put so much of yourself into it, there is nothing stopping you from being great. I think that's why I keep doing these videos too. I debated not doing one of these for 2023, but I thought otherwise, as they remind me that I lived through the year and maybe I meant something to someone. And maybe I can look back on these videos and wonder why I had so many worries to begin with. So, without further ado, my friends, welcome to the Faves 2023.
Living the life. Always thought I was living the life. Wasn't feeling it right. Always thought I was living the life.
Put my hand up on my heart, I beat my chest. The chaos moving down and down, deep in my flesh. The obstacles won't block my path, I see the test. They can try and swat me down, boy I'm the pest. Only know what you see from the outside. You can run, God laughs with his mouth wide. I will die on my knees, throw my hands tied. In the end it's a roach versus a landslide.
Better run, there's a God, and he's coming for me. Better run, there's a God, and he's coming for me. Better run, there's a God, and he's coming for me. Better run, there's a God, and he's coming for me. Living the life.
Very few channels have the personable coziness the way Hazel does. Maybe it's because we're both yet another sad bitch in their late 20s, musing about the way things were in our formative years within online and anime communities, but all of her videos have this cozy nostalgia to them, in which it probably won't hit as hard for you if you weren't around for them. Her videos on Tokyo Pop's bizarre weeaboo reality show and weird video game and online fan sites are fascinating time capsules that take me back to a much simpler time, in which geek communities felt so nascent and grand, and finding out about anime and gaming felt like a mysterious adventure, before social media had homogenized and made the world feel much smaller. But even if you weren't of that generation, her video on Sonic Adventure is something I quote daily.
Sonic the Hedgehog in 3D. He's a friend to the people. He's pro-union.
That looks upon the qualities that made the game so unique, and even a study on being able to find the good in things that are deeply flawed. And probably my favorite of Hazel's videos, her ambitious undertaking of the 2003 anime, Fooly Cooly, that perfectly discusses adolescent feelings and the vastness of watching the series for the first time. As someone who has their own personal feelings on the series, Hazel is able to capture so well what made the series important for an entire generation in a way that feels both nostalgic, profound, and genuinely humorous. If you ever wanted a YouTube channel that has the energy of that really cool senior you befriended in your anime club that you really think is cool and knows all the best spots to find obscure anime and manga from the 80s to the 2000s, while somehow also getting into a conversation about the different types of Denny's in anime, wow, that was hyper-specific, my friend, you are in luck. Links to all the channels I discuss in the description below. I like to think that I wear the inspirations of my channel on my sleeve pretty visually. I've made no subtleties about my inspirations coming from the likes of Super Eye Patchwolf or Joseph Montesilio, but one I don't think I talk enough about and genuinely makes me want to be a better video essayist is the way the channel Breadsword does. Breadsword makes video essays on God mode, with an almost encyclopedic knowledge of clips to reference for the right kind of emotion or idea to his rapid-fire editing, but most specific to how I want to make better videos is his ability to tell an all-consuming and emotional story within his work. His video on Gurren Lagann renders me to absolute tears every time, as a deeply personal and touching tribute to his father, while also being about seeing the positivity in life's misfortunes. His video on the 2011 film The Adventures of Tintin, a film I couldn't have cared less about, sucked me in completely, to the point where I felt like reading every single Tintin book available, and gave me a better appreciation of the film, as he painstakingly details the franchise and the personal life of series creator Hergé to illustrate what made the film so incredibly faithful to the source material. And most recently, his deeply passionate extolling of the virtues of Lupin III's The Castle of Cagliostro, where he not only gushes about the franchise, the film in question, and the countless stories it continues to influence, but it hit me extremely hard with its greater message about legacy, expectations, and the desire to create something that will exist for future generations upon its foundations. If I get to be even a quarter as profound and meticulous in my videos as Breadsword is, I think I'll have truly made something great. Appreciate you, King. Continue the inspiring work. How do you follow up arguably the greatest documentary of your career in a way that's both profound and elevates the medium to new heights? Completely turn it on its head. Nothing made me realize how vast the gap that exists between me and Kevin Perjurer of Defunctland in terms of creativity and sheer commitment, the way his journey to Epcot Center did. Equal parts experimental, fascinating, and boundary-pushing, and the way Perjurer is able to tell the story of the Epcot Center following Walt Disney's death in 1966 to the park's opening in 1982. Utilizing pure sound and different visual styles to tell its story in an unconventional but awe-inspiring way. Watching this video for me was like being filled with a childlike wonder that something like this could be made, and desiring to know how he did it. If for nothing else than appreciating the sheer passionate levels of imagination and love for it that bursts from every scene. Especially when you find out that Perjurer not only did the visual effects and cinematography, but also having a hand with helping with the score, graphic design, and puppeteering. It really puts into perspective how Kevin Perjurer is one of the platform's most creative and exciting minds. Yeah, man, I get it. Believe me, I do. Sometimes it really does feel like there's an old man waiting in the sky just to fuck my life up. No album this year personified the feeling of fuck it we ball and living through the absurdity of 2023 the way Genisis Owusu's sophomore album Struggler did. Something so genuinely life-affirming about the Kafka-esque and Berserk-inspired concept album about struggling through an unknowable force through the lens of funk, goth, hip-hop, synthy post-punk that made my everyday life that little bit more worth living. Like, Leaving the Light was my song of 2023. No matter how much things sucked in my personal life, I could always crank Owusu singing Crush Me With Your Holy Hell, I Feel No Damage, on top of the thumping synths that instilled the feeling of an unstoppable momentum, and within that moment I knew that I could get through the day. But it's that type of sonic experimentation and conceptual consistency that persists throughout every track on this album, whether that's the punky Stay Blessed, the funk-laden Tied Up, or the goth rock-inspired The Roach. Every track here has a momentum and infectious perseverance to some degree. Regardless of what chaos tries to break you down and the absurdity of the world, both man-made or existential, Owusu is unwavering, set on telling his audience that our greatest strength and trait is the sheer act of living, and pushing through despite our struggles. To quote the man himself, "No guide, no knowing, when you're going through hell, you just keep going." How does one get into King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard? A question I asked this year, as the band has been putting up Call of Duty numbers in terms of release and the 25 albums that they've put out in the past decade. They've covered a lot of bases in terms of genre and sheer saturation, but in 2023, I ended my Gizzard virginity with Petrodragonic Apocalypse, or Dawn of Eternal Night, an annihilation of planet Earth and the beginning of merciless damnation. And it rules. Trash-laden prog metal, with lyrics that discusses the pressing climate crisis we are existing within through the lens of a science fiction fantasy world, with tracks like Motorspirit on a reliance of technology and gasoline, evoking Mad Max-like imagery, or more fantastical songs like Gila Monster, about giant lizards devouring witches. You know, something for everyone. But above the subject matter they cover, the instrumentation is just so heavy and ferocious, feeling like a more prog-laden early Metallica or Motorhead in terms of its sheer speed and edge. Also, I should probably shout out their second album they released this year as well, In the Silver Chord, a complete 180 of Petrodragonic in terms of genre and sound, as they venture into more synth-centered and electronic instrumentation. And while I don't enjoy it as much as Petrodragonic, it does show the levels of experimentation the band is willing to play with and challenge themselves musically, a quality that makes them so enjoyed by their fans. They sure won me over, you gotta respect that. Okay, Hell Mode. Given my proclivity for punk music, I'm kicking myself bloody for not finding out about Jeff Rosenstock sooner, as his album Hell Mode was the first time since Idol's Joy as an Act of Resistance that felt so emotionally resonant to me. Like, I cried in the aisle of the backroom section of my job the first time I listened to the track Doubt, if that helps describe what this album means to me. This whole album is about forgiveness, self-care, wanting to be wrong about the state of the world, believing that there's good and moving on from trauma, while also appreciating the small pleasures life can offer. It's an album that's so dense and hard to listen to for me emotionally, and I think I needed that. Like, I think so much of this album, while coming from a place that's very personal, also felt very relatable to me. It's hard to talk about without typing at least 4 more pages on this, but aside from the lyrical and thematic content, Hell Mode is able to balance a strong variety of genres that isn't just straight punk. Like, tracks like Future is Dumb and I Wanna Be Wrong are certified mosh pit ragers, but it's in tracks like Soft Living and Life Admin that show the inspirations he takes from power pop and alt-rock. Like, Soft Living is the most Weezer song Weezer never made. Overall, in 2023, if Struggler was the album I needed to listen to let me know that I needed to be strong, Hell Mode was the album that told me that it was okay to not be. And in a genre like punk rock, I think that's a very bold and honest way to get your feelings across. What an introduction to Rosenstock's discography. I've been such a fan of Capcom's remakes of the Resident Evil series. I was far too young to really be able to play the franchise in its prime, as games like that were pretty much banned in my house as a kid, as well as certain entries in the series having mechanics that haven't aged as well, at least to me. And when it comes to Resident Evil 4, it's always been the entry that's been hung over my head, dangled like a carrot as the peerless masterpiece of the series, and after playing the remake, yeah, I don't know what you want me to say. Speaking as someone who has never played the original Resident Evil 4, this remake was just an absolute blast from beginning to end, carefully balancing the tightrope between over-the-top action and genuine horror that I know the series has been known to, falter with? I love Leon and his suplexes and one-liners. Ada Wong might honestly be my favorite character in the whole franchise. Her DLC kicks so much ass. The boss fights have a scope and excitement to them, especially against the likes of Krauser. There's just so many fun little details that enhance the quality of life this game has, with little mini challenges and the arcadey mercenaries mode, which I sunk entire evenings to just to beat my high score. It really is just a flex at this point with Capcom and the way they make these remakes, that it makes the future of the franchise so exciting and unique in terms of what they do next. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon just fucks. Plain and simple. Even though I think the appeal of smashing giant robots against each other as an ant colony worth of bullets and missiles fly and explode across the screen is enough to sell you, I think one of its strongest aspects is in its depth of customization. As someone who never really got into Gunpla as a hobby, I think I made a Red Zaku one afternoon and thought nothing of it. There's just something so thoughtful and borderline relaxing about just the sheer level of customization options you can put into your mech, with different types of colors, parts, weathering, and weaponry to make your favorite looking bot, making sure every detail is to your liking. Like, if you have an idea for a giant robot you want to make, the only limitation is your own creativity. Only to launch that bucket of bolts at Mach 10 speed into tight, compact missions that tickle the very ape lizard part of your brain that desire things to be smashed and exploded into slow motion as you empty an entire drum of machine gun fire into a boss and blow it away with your laser cannons. No thought, head empty, giant robots go BRRRR! I have loved fighting games my whole life. Fighting games have never loved me back. I've always had an arm's length appreciation of them, stemming from the skills and dedication needed to be good at them. I think I just merely appreciated them from how vibrant the character designs were and how exciting the special moves are, especially when it comes to Street Fighter. I have never been able to be good at Street Fighter. There's just a blockage skill-wise I've always had with the franchise that I've never been able to just click with until Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 might honestly be the most I've ever enjoyed not only a Street Fighter game, but a fighting game period in years. A game so confident in how forward-thinking it is in terms of generating a new audience, while also coming from a place that just absolutely loves the franchise it comes from. This is seen most readily in the new cast. Every single new character Capcom introduces here is a hit. From Kimberly, that exudes such a youthful kinetic energy in her mannerisms and moveset that feels right at home with the alpha era of the franchise, to the refined ballet judoka Manon, to my favorite and current main, Pankration powerhouse Marisa. I love her so much. On top of being able to tweak and reimagine the existing cast in unique and entertaining ways. Like, one of my mains is E Honda. No one mains E Honda. They made E Honda cool. It's the most I've seen the franchise be this confident in projecting a new generation for its fans, but most impressively is their implementation of the modern mode control set. Fighting games have always struggled with simplifying controls for new fans without insulting their intelligence, but the way Street Fighter 6 is able to implement modern mode takes away more frustrating button inputs to make super moves easier, which to me is the primary reason why I want to play a fighting game. Now, this doesn't mean that it gives newbies an edge. On the contrary, I almost broke my controller over classic trained Ken players, beating my ass all the time, but what it does do is by giving casuals the tools to do the cool stuff, it teaches them things like timing and defense, when to or not to use your special moves, and what moves are risky and which aren't in a given situation. There's honestly too much I could say about this game, and I think my online mixtape series speaks for itself, but in summation, I have always loved fighting games, and it makes my heart so happy that Street Fighter 6 loved me back. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is a very good and very pretty anime that I think is very good.
Foreshadowing is a narrative device in which suggestions or warnings about events to come are dropped or planted.
So John Wick Chapter 4 rules. Like, it somehow not only tops everything that came before it, It somehow not only has the biggest and most violent set pieces, it not only somehow introduces its most interesting aspects of its world and characters with unfathomable detail and intrigue, and it somehow not only fits all of that in nearly 3 hours, but does so with a pace and ferocity that puts every action film since maybe Mad Max Fury Road to shame. Like, I didn't know I needed an action scene where the whole film turns into Hotline Miami, where John Wick shoots a preposterous amount of flaming shotgun rounds into his enemies, but if the rest of action cinema in Hollywood could wake up and realize that they're at least a decade behind the curve with things like this, we would live in a much more entertaining world. I saw this film on opening night, and the sheer euphoric range of emotions the audience let out for each and every mind-numbing feat of lethal precision in the aforementioned nigh 3 hours is a movie-going experience I soon won't forget. Peak action cinema, and it would be my film of the year if the following sentence didn't fill me with genuine surprise as I speak it. My favorite film of 2023 is a Godzilla film. Although, I feel like I'm being a bit dismissive by calling Godzilla -1 just a Godzilla film, as friend of the channel Reardon from the Sweet Chinwag podcast so perfectly put it.
I wasn't prepared for this prestige Japanese period piece movie, and then Godzilla shows up.
It really is a marvel just how incredibly put together this film is, not just in how it manages its mind-blowing less than 15 million budget, but from how endearing and well fleshed out every character in this film is. They feel three-dimensional with how they try to live through and find the spirit in fighting through such devastation. The themes of honor, redemption, and the perseverance of the human spirit feel so well realized through them that even if just one character you like gets obliterated, you feel it. And Godzilla himself feels so terrifying and unknowable in this film. Like, when he hits his atomic breath in the film, it felt like my heart was about to stop. But it's that kind of dedication to make him such a force of nature that makes every decision and sacrifice so palpable. It's why we go to the movies, not just for spectacle and awe, but for deeply human stories that connect us. And in a year where things felt like they were falling apart, I think Godzilla -1 reminded us of the power unity can truly have. Anthony Henry and J.D. Drake of the Horsemen hate Kevin Koo and Dominic Garrini of Violence is Forever. Following their match at a Deadlock Pro Live event that ended in a time limit draw, while neither team was able to beat the other, the Horsemen came out looking like the better competitors. And yet, Violence is Forever is the team that inevitably wins the DPW Tag Team Championships. The Horsemen, feeling slighted that they made Violence is Forever made men, as they're the ones that hold the tag gold instead of them, Violence is Forever takes this message the only way they can, to defend the titles in DPW's first ever steel cage match. The channel Grappleholics has an excellent pair of essays regarding this feud, and I highly recommend visiting their channel, but for me, this was a grueling, spite-fueled war that is waged by both teams, filled with plenty of detestable violence, excellent tag team offense, and pure fighting spirit, where the hatred and intensity burst from the screen. As the cost of such hatred Drake and Henry have for Koo and Garrini is exposed and used against them. DPW gained a lot of popularity in 2023, and while I never followed the promotion last year, this match right here is the perfect introduction to the promotion, and as the promotion succeeds more and more, the more I hope these two teams meet again, as it can only get better from here. The Continental Classic was hands down the best thing AEW did in all of 2023. In a year that saw the promotion fall into its absolute worst tendencies, a round-robin tournament that focused on in-ring competition and storytelling was just what the promotion needed. Alongside backstage promos that saw how each victory or defeat affected their character, made every week so exciting, not just in terms of possible matchups available, but the greater stories being told between each competitor. Whether that was the runaway momentum of Swerve Strickland, as the more he won, the more confident he became, and in the opposite spectrum, the constant struggle of Daniel Garcia, as each loss broke down the young warrior week after week. Or more specifically, the pressure Eddie Kingston put upon himself as he put both his Ring of Honor and New Japan Strong titles on the line. Struggling his way through the tournament, having to overcome an opening 2-loss deficit as he scratched and clawed his way back into the Blue League Finals, where he inevitably faced his greatest challenge, Bryan Danielson. Danielson does not respect Eddie Kingston, beating him early in the tournament, denoting the Mad King as a bum, only suffering 1 loss and 1 tie in the tournament. Danielson was the heavy favorite to take the Blue League against a man who he has constantly defeated. What follows is a beautiful, violent, and passionate display of fighting spirit by 2 men who personify all the great qualities I love about professional wrestling. As one man fights, gets punished, and stands strong to slay a dragon. And while his finals match at World's End against Jon Moxley is great, this match here feels genuinely special. Both men are waning moons. My 2 favorite wrestlers of the year, and 2 greats that, while in the twilights of their career, do everything to show the world that once they're in the ring, there will never be anyone like them. The 2 greatest wrestlers in America, and when they are gone, their absence won't be seen, it will be felt. 2023 was the year I got sick of modern wrestling. Not one company soured me on the industry, merely it was just the state of wrestling in general. So much discourse is wasted on financials, drama, and statistics that we somehow drifted further away from the heart and the passion of the art form. So sick of it all, I ended up actually going back into wrestling's past to find what I truly loved so much from it. And inevitably, I discovered shoot style. Primarily UWFI and Battle Arts. And while I wouldn't call myself an expert or connoisseur of these promotions, like some of its most diehard fans, there's something really intoxicating and charming about the energy of them. Primarily Battle Arts, where it just felt like a group of weird misfits who didn't fit in, coming together to pour their hearts out for the art they loved. When I made that Ikeda Ishikawa video, there was this almost sad realization that what Battle Arts was and the vibe it emanated just doesn't exist anymore. And trying to find that kind of love and passion is few and far between within the wrestling of today. And then there's Fuminori Abbe versus Takuya Namora from KT Don. There is inherently too much I could write about this match, but it's not just my favorite match of the year from my favorite show of the year because of how tight it is or how recklessly violent or insane some of these strikes are, but the kind of passion and earnestness that goes into a match like this. It's the closest thing we have to a match that radiates the same kind of special energy that Ikeda and Ishikawa had in the 90s. To show someone how much you love something so much that you will push yourself to unfathomable levels to prove it to your opponent. No one fights you like your best friend, and I mean, just listen to this. While it's not perfect to the original Battle Arts vision, it's the closest thing we have that radiates the same kind of special energy that Ikeda and Ishikawa had in their primes. But so much more specifically, I think there's a real personal hold this match has on me. I watched this match 3 times in the 48 hours it aired, one by myself and twice with my fellow creators and friends in Discord, where each time we discovered something unique and new about it, and reminded me of how truly grateful for the niche community I am in. Much like Battle Arts and indeed KT Don, we are misfits, we are a little weird, and in the context of being among content creators, we might not get the most views or subscribers, but we don't care, because we just love the videos we make so much and are so willing to share it with the people who are just as passionate as we are. Abbe versus Namora is beautiful because it's giving something to the world so genuine and earnest that its greatness doesn't come from the fact that it's going to be for everyone, or that it had to compromise itself to do so, but because it stood so steadfast in telling a story so steeped in both men's beliefs and styles that it could do nothing but be infatuating, undeniable, and life-affirming in its vision. Forever a fighting detective. Long live Fuminori Abbe and Takuya Namora. Battle Arts never die. Before I end the video, I think I'd like to share some life experiences that helped make 2023 all the more enjoyable. 2023 was the first year since the pandemic that I went to see a live concert. Specifically, I so longed for the feeling of being inside a mosh pit for a punk show, and boy was seeing the legendary Adolescence, Descendants, and Circle Jerks live what I needed. Funny story, we were actually given slips at the venue as we went in, not to mosh, but let me tell you something. The millisecond the riff for Deny Everything by Circle Jerks was struck, it was like a tsunami of humanity collided into itself. Fuck yeah, man. How dare the venue tell us what to do? Maybe the best live show I've ever been to, if for no other reason than emptying everything out of myself as I felt every emotion at once, as I sang every lyric of whatever Descendants played, just being in the sheer euphoria of seeing one of my favorite bands live. Distance really does make the heart grow fond. Shoutouts to also seeing Baby Metal and Death Clock with my friends at the same venue. Didn't know what to expect, and was thoroughly impressed with both bands' live performance. My girlfriend bought a Sega Dreamcast last year, and it can't be overstated how impressive this 25-year-old machine is. Genuinely ahead of its time in terms of the technology that was offered in it, but to me, it's the console that feels the most close to my kind of aesthetic. Beautiful in its optimistic vision of the future, and ambitious in how many swings it takes to try something no one has seen before. And it also has the best/arcade perfect version of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That doesn't hurt. We even enhanced its authenticity by getting a CRTV for it. Reject modernity, embrace the dream. Cast. And finally, you. Yeah, you watching this. I know deep down I wish I did more with this channel, and I felt like I needed to do more. When I look back on 2023, it's a year defined by personal setbacks and genuine bad luck. But if 2023 taught me one thing, it's that if you come from a place that's genuine or feels like a lot of passion went into making anything creative and they can see the individual within, people will not only stay, more will follow. So to the 700 of you who shared my stuff, commented, liked, or even just watched period, thank you. Whether you were here on day one or just discovering my channel now. It really does mean a lot, and I hope you guys take good care of yourselves in 2024. I know I'm trying. Much love, and see you sometimes.